Okay, we'll get started. We'd like to welcome Cameron Young into the interview room, our 2025 Wyndham Championship winner. He is our 1,000th unique winner on the PGA Tour, with 23 of those coming here, and he's the fourth Wake Forest alumnus to win this tournament. Cameron, I know it was a long road for you to finally get into the winner's circle. How good does it feel?
It feels great. Like you said, it feels like a long time coming. I felt like for, the first year and a half that I was out here, I had a chance to win, every third week it felt like. And they've been a bit more few and far between. But to have a chance like this today, I was not going to let it get away from me, and I'm thankful that I didn't.
You swept up there on the first, but then five straight. Just talk a little bit about the streak you got on there. It was your second stretch this week with 5 birdies in a row.
Yeah. I played the front 9 really, really well this week. I think I was probably close to 20 under on the front. So I just knew that there were opportunities, and obviously number 1 was a little messy, but then I kind of got to work, and nice to see, all those putts go in. Obviously on another day, maybe not all of them go in, but I was rolling it great, and nice to see a bunch of them in a row find the bottom.
And before we open up the questions, you move up to number 16 in the FedExCup. I know that opens up a whole new list of opportunities here over these next few weeks. Talk a little bit about it as the playoffs get started next week.
Yeah. Going into the Truist this year, the first week of May, I think I was 83rd. So that was not a great spot to be. And, there's thoughts in the back of your mind like, what if I finish 104th? So, I kind of told myself that I can't let that happen, and I've played some different golf since then. So, yeah, to be back kind of where I feel like I should be, I've got a great opportunity to make it to Eastlake, and I think a great opportunity to make a Ryder Cup team. So those are the 2 things I want to do.
All right, awesome. We'll start with Shane right here.
Congratulations, first off. You talked about finishing second a number of times, but none of them were incredibly clear-cut opportunities. Yeah. This one was. And so I guess my first question is, what was it like last night and this morning? I have to imagine those are some pretty long hours.
Yeah, honestly, last night was no problem. It just, we were out here early. We had to play 3 holes and then come back and play a whole round of golf. And by the time I got home, it was dinner, bed. So I really had no issue. This morning I was a little bit more nervous than I expected, but kind of just, did my usual stuff. And I was a little bit nervous starting out, and then by the time I made the second or third birdie, I was just ready to get it done.
You might have just answered my next question, but there's watching on the TV, I was like, you seemed maybe a little nervous on late when it was obviously very clear cut that you were going to win, and I was wondering if there was some part of you that was sensing the finish line and might still have felt a little tension. Yeah,
I wasn't nervous at all. Those last bunch, I just kind of at that point had my foot off the gas, and frankly, I knew that I could make a couple bogeys, and it was just a matter of not hitting it anywhere that I could possibly make a double, which I didn't want to play that way, but at some point, I wanted to win by 12, and at some point there's something more important than that probably, and, with 4 holes to go and an 8-shot lead or whatever it was at the time, I was just trying to get it done, and, even though I had a couple putts for par, it was like the least stressful few holes probably of my career.
Let's go Helen and then Ron.
First of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions. One, after you won, it looked like you said, "What do I do? I've never done this before."
Yeah.
Did you say that?
Yeah, well, there were all of a sudden every time I've come off the green my entire career, I have shaken the hands of whoever I've played with, thanked the standard bearer and, our walking scorer, and then walked through the tunnel to scoring. And today there were about 150 people between me and that tunnel. So at that point I got confused, and I didn't know if I did that first or if I, spoke to somebody first. So yeah, that's the first time that I've really done anything any different after holding out on 18. So I would prefer that outcome more often.
Secondly, what did it mean to have your dad here?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, he doesn't miss much. He's essential to me doing what I do. He does a lot of background stuff for me. He does. He sets up a lot of stuff for me. He kind of takes care of little things, and on top of that, coaches me. So he's a great resource to have on the road, both as a friend and a coach and a father. He plays a lot of roles for me. So he just walked in the room. Nice to have him here, and glad he watched some better golf than I've played in a while.
All right, let's go Ron and then Adam.
Congrats. I'm sure you've answered this too many times, but how much of a burden or weight had the runner-up thing become, and how did you make peace with it, or had you made peace? So,
Yeah. No, I think there's always some, but it's not in the sense of it's not like a burden that I hadn't won. It just is something that I haven't done and I'd like to. And at times it hurts to have played some really good golf and not had that happen. But in all those cases, there were really no times that I had it in my hands and lost. So it's different, I think, than having a burden. It wasn't really like that. It was more just, when is it going to be my time here? And because it just felt like a lot of those tournaments weren't. I think I answered a question. I think I answered basically that question at the PGA Championship in 2022. Somebody asked me something similar. When are you going to win something? And I said, well, I don't know. I mean, I played pretty well today. I'm sure one of these times I'll be right there and I'll shoot 31 on the back nine and win. And I went to the British Open and shot 31 on the back nine and lost by 1. So to someone that shot 30, it wasn't like I was coming way back or anything. Like I was right there and shot 5 under and lost. So, or got beat rather. So not a burden in the traditional sense. Today was a different situation than I've ever been in. And, it was our goal today to come out and see how many I could win by if I stuck to our plan. And about halfway through the round, my brain just said, let's make some pars. So I was trying to aim at stuff, and I honestly I think the mind is powerful, and it was just taking me, towards the middle of greens. And I would have liked to hit some better shots, but, got it done and happy to have done it.
Let's go Adam and then Jeff and Jenny.
Yeah, kind of following up on that, you said last night that a couple of years ago you were frustrated about the not winning. What changed? How did you get out of that mindset?
I started playing worse, and the good finishes were less frequent, and I became happier about those good finishes, I think. I just was more thankful for those opportunities. And obviously, there's always some frustration when you don't win if you've felt like you had a chance. But I kind of took for granted there for a minute that I was just going to have a chance to win a lot, and that doesn't have to be the case all the time. So I think through that, I feel like I struggled through the last year and a half or so, up until the second half of the season. So I think it's just recognizing that at that point it just felt easy, and recognizing that it's not always easy, and I need to appreciate the opportunities I'm given. So, in that vein, I'm thankful that I had the one I had today, and very, very thankful to have gotten it done.
I asked you yesterday about your putting, but I looked up the numbers, and you were 145 in strokes gained putting last year. You're 10 this year. You were number 1 this week. Is there anything specific that you point to for the improvement?
I mean, I think it's been years of understanding that just setup dictates a lot. And I think we've finally just narrowed into a pattern that works. And it allows me to mechanically do the things that we want and also feel good. So it's just a lot of setup work. It's not rocket science. It's a lot of short putting practice and a lot of setup.
Okay, one more from me, if you don't mind. Sleepy Hollow's as good as it gets. How did that play shape you into the golfer you are?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you went and played the golf course, you'd understand why I do a lot of what I do. The fairways are pretty wide. I swing hard. A lot of the up and downs and putts are tricky, and I'm typically pretty good chipping and lag putting. So I think, you get to some of these holes where you have really, really fast putts down the hill or up over a knob, and I've done all that a million times growing up. Not that all of us haven't at some point playing out here, but growing up on greens like that, I think it just trains your mind to just see some higher lines. Out here, I don't know how many putts are missed low versus high. It's got to be drastically on the low side through the week. So I think it just, growing up on those kinds of greens, you're just more familiar with how to play some of those, and it's just ingrained into you from a young age.
All right, Jeff.
You mentioned earlier in the year being, 80-something in the standings, and what changed for you after that, and what really has propelled you to the second half of the season?
Yeah, there's been a couple things. We've worked a little bit harder on the mental side of the game, which has helped. I think it's just, allows me to be me more often, to play the golf that I feel like I can. I think some of it is just, grinding through tougher times and finding better ones. And some of it's, hiring my caddy. Kyle, he's one of my best friends, a college teammate, and he's great at reading greens. I think he's very quickly picking up a lot of the technical skills that it requires to be, a really good caddy out here. So he's been a great resource for me. Great on a day like today when you're not necessarily comfortable kind of from the jump. So between those things, I think I'm headed in the right direction and happy to see some results.
All right, let's go Jimmy and then over to Kevin.
Hey, congrats, Cameron.
Thank you.
You went through a ball switch this week
Yeah.
using a new Titleist prototype. Can you talk about what went into that switch?
Yeah, it's just been something we've worked on over the last 9-10 months. And it's, it's very, very similar to what I was playing before. It's just a tiny bit different. It's like you said, a new Pro V1x prototype, and I think it definitely contributed to some of the good play this week. So I'm excited about the next few weeks.
Is there anything specific about the ball that you were looking for in a play?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a super high spin person, so it's really just trying to manage that. And given, I hit it pretty hard, so I hit it hard and hit down on it a lot, and that just generates spin. So it's just a ball trying to manage that.
All right, let's take a few more. Let's go Kevin and then back up to Shane.
Congrats, Cameron.
Thanks.
You mentioned the switch to focusing on hitting draws yesterday, and I was wondering, what kind of are the periods of your progression in your career where you've focused on that, but kind of before this, and then how did that help get you into the winner's circle?
Yeah, I think from the time that I turned pro, I'm sure it's some bias remembering it differently, but I remember having a bit more of a consistent swing thought, just trying to get the club a bit more behind me and swinging it into out more. And that, I think that was kind of 2020, 21, 22. And, in trying to learn some more shots, I kind of went the other way. And, I've done that for a couple of years now. And I don't know if that's the answer or not. It seems to be right now. But we'll see. I mean, I think it's something that I don't have any proof yet that I'm wrong about that thought, so we'll see what we get.
And then how does it feel to be the 1,000th winner in PGA Tour history?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, it's the PGA Tour's got a great history. I mean, tremendous tradition, and I'm incredibly grateful to be a part of it. And for it to happen to be number 1,000 is pretty cool. So I'm gonna do my very best to keep it 1,000 next week.
All right, let's go back to Shane, and then we'll go to the back to wrap it up.
Should it be like being the 10,000th shopper at a supermarket where they give you something?
Yeah, I'll take whatever they're going to give me.
Any balloons for him, John?
Yeah.
My question was also about the draw, but I was just curious, how recent was that when you decided I want to get back to this?
Probably about 10 days ago.
So super.
Yeah, it was just in my practice last week. I kind of had the thought and, went out there, played some holes just to see what it would be like, and felt like it was doable, and I was really just kind of curious. how that would affect playing out there. And, you know, there's times that it wasn't my first choice of shot, but I kind of just committed to doing it all week. I'm sure there's a couple you could go back to some right pins where, you know, conventional wisdom says don't start it, you know, right of the right fringe. But I told myself I was going to do it and, you know, stuck to it all week.
Probably a dumb question, but how much credit do you give that for what just happened for the last 4 days?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, right now that seems to be a good way to do it. So, I don't know. I think it allows me to kind of get a feel for something more so than every shot being different and having to kind of start over with each shot. That just doesn't give you the opportunity to build shot after shot and kind of go on a run, I think, unless you're way, way better than me and you just have all of them all the time. But, you know, it seemed to lead to that this week where I kind of got on some runs of just hitting it right at it and, you know, stuff coming down the right distance. So I think it might be difficult in some spots, but right now it seems like maybe part of the answer. Who knows?
All right, we'll wrap right here in the middle.
Congratulations. Obviously, the first win is going to be special anywhere, but
Yeah.
just wondering if there was anything more special about doing it with the Wake fans and
Yeah.
on this golf course.
Yeah, I mean, it's great having some extra fans out there. It's, you know, there's a couple places a year where I feel like I get some additional support, and this is probably the biggest one. So, you know, anytime we get up in the Northeast, I have a kind of the New York crowd, but this week to have the Wake crowd out there was a lot of fun. It's a place I really enjoyed. I love this part of the country in North Carolina, and yeah, nice to have some extra support out there.
Well, Cameron, we couldn't be happier for you. Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate
Thanks.
that.
Yep.
Thanks, John.